we can all smile more. And really, that's what I want because, as I've said a million times, we all started homeschooling because we thought it was going to be fun. And somewhere along the way, we stopped smiling. And, in fact, we do the opposite of smiling. Our kids would drop over dead if they saw us smiling, and I just want to remind you again to smile.
Hi, welcome to the Zan Tyler podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zan Tyler podcast, where our goal is to help you thrive in your homeschool journey. Let me take just a minute to ask you to please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen or watch, including YouTube. And if this podcast has been encouraging to you, please leave us a good review. Each review really does help. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. We have a great show for you today. Todd Wilson is with us. Some of you know him as the family man or the smiling homeschooler. Todd and Debbie have been homeschooling their 8 kids for over 25 years and now have a passel of grandkids as well. Todd and Debbie, along with their kids, spent the last 2 decades driving their RV across the country, encouraging families. Todd's message is simple. Home is the best place for your children. Parents are the best teachers of their children. Every child is a masterpiece, and relationship is the most important part of homeschooling. Join us today as we laugh and cry with Todd. This podcast is brought to you by BJU Press Homeschool. Homeschooling is an exciting adventure we take with our children. One of the most challenging parts of this journey is choosing the curriculum you want to use. BJU Press Homeschool is a curriculum you can trust. All the books, resources, and videos have been designed with you and your child in mind. Their curriculum is educationally robust and rich, taking into account that children have different learning styles, strengths, and needs. Mom, you are in charge. BJU Press Homeschool is here to come alongside and support you. Do you need help with the teaching load, or is there a subject you just don't want to teach? Their amazing video courses are available for all grades and almost every subject. BJU Press Homeschool believes that homeschooling can produce a new generation of students who know God, love their neighbors, and stand firm in their faith. For more information, go to bjupresshomeschool.com. That's bjupresshomeschool.com. Hey, everybody. We are so happy to have Todd Wilson back on the podcast. Todd is like comfort food for me. He just makes me happy. And since my major comfort food is Krispy Kreme donuts and I can't eat them anymore because I'm gluten-free, I'll talk to Todd instead.
I'm a gluten-free guest.
You are not a gluten-free
That's
guest.
true. That's true.
So one time, Todd and I were speaking at the same conference, and Debbie, his wife, said, Todd talked about you in one of his workshops this morning. And I said, oh, that's so sweet. She said, oh, no, it wasn't sweet. He was just telling anybody that this little squirt of a woman could sit down and eat 10 Krispy Kreme donuts at a time.
Well, the reason I share this story, and it seems to come up, and, when you die, if Joe wants me to tell it, I can. But she was kind of bragging at the time that she said she was on a diet. And she goes, and I picked up a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts for somebody. I don't know, for a family, for somebody. She was on her way home. And she goes, and I ate 7 of them. And I knew then that I'd like this lady.
I know. The saddest thing about being gluten-free is that I can't eat those donuts.
That's true.
I even discovered that when my car had seat warmers, I could put my hot nows on the hot seat and they'd stay hot all the way home.
Wow.
So I had this whole scheme worked out. Now I can't eat them anymore. So this is just my one pitch to Krispy Kreme. Please make one gluten-free donut. Okay. So Todd, a lot has been happening in your life. You've had a marriage. You've probably had more grandchildren being born. No. And you got rid of your RV.
Yes. So I got rid of my daughter. I got rid of my RV. And they were both sad and happy at the same time. I mean, I didn't realize how big the deal getting rid of our RV. So we've traveled around the country in what we call the Family Man Mobile for really 20 years. This RV that we have now is about 16 years. We've had it for 16 years. It's been a great RV. My family have crisscrossed the country. We've spent really hundreds of nights in Walmart parking lots. We've seen the country. We've gone to homeschool conventions all over the place. We've lived in it for months at a time. And I've been talking about it for a couple years with my kids, like, hey, we don't use it like we did. We stay in hotels a lot. And so I'm going to, and I thought, eh, when I finally sold it, everybody kind of knew that was the plan, but they all turned on me and like,
All your
I can't
kids.
believe
Me
you're going to get rid of it.
too.
And I'm
That's
like,
how
what?
I felt when I heard you were selling it.
And Zan has nothing in the game. She doesn't take care of it. She doesn't park it. And yet she wants me to keep my RV. And I'm like, I'm not turning it into a museum. And even my son Ike, he goes, Dad, this is maybe the most traumatic thing. Even maybe a little more so than when you die someday. And I'm like,
I
so
know.
we had this big gathering the night before we sold it, and had my entire family together. We had a campfire outside, and we sat around and told RV stories. All the adult kids, we went inside the RV and took one drive down the road, and we prayed and thanked God for all the memories we made as we homeschooled in it. And it was a super heavy thing. I was shocked by how hard it was. Maybe not hard to sell the RV because I'm glad to pass it on to another dad who's got 5 kids and they're going to make their own memories. We're all excited about that. But I think sometimes closing those chapters is hard to do for me,
It's so hard.
and I don't
It's so
like it.
hard. Me
And even
either.
so, my daughter got married about 2 weeks after we sold the RV, which is about 2 weeks from before today, as we record this. And I've had this is our fifth child to get married, and it's always surprised me because I thought I'm a super emotional guy. I mean, Zan can see in my background, I've got every scrap of paper that my kids have ever drawn on. In fact, I just harvested a buckeye from a tree that I grew from a buckeye, and it's taken 15 years. I just picked it up today, and I'm probably have it in my pocket. And my daughter-in-law saw me out there, and she goes, "I know where that's going," which she meant it's going down in my office to sit on somewhere. I don't have a space anymore, but I'm going to sit it somewhere.
I'm
And
gonna decorate my office like yours. That's a great idea because I've kept every scrap of paper too.
yeah, I like to see them, so I
Yes.
staple them all over the walls, and they're on the ceiling or on the door. And but when so I thought I'd be a mess for all my kids' weddings, but it has surprised me because it hasn't felt sad. It's always felt like this is right. This is
That's
why
why
we
you raised
parent.
them.
This
Yeah.
is why we homeschool. And it just always felt. But so people kept saying, "Are you gonna be sad that Maggie's your last daughter?" And I'm like, I don't think so. And it didn't feel sad. It felt joyous and wonderful. But then she gave me a letter right before she walked down the aisle, and I read it just minutes before. And we stood in the back, and they were playing some music from Father of the Bride. And I mean, I just got like that softball lodged in my throat, thinking, my little girl's not going to be there tonight when we go home. And really, Zan, I don't know about you, but that's what motivates me to do these podcasts. That's what motivates me to travel around or to be in the homeschool circles because I believe homeschooling gives you that as much time as a parent could possibly have with their children. Because it would sadden me to think that I was going to put my kids, send them away for the biggest chunk of the day. And then as they get older, they even spend more time away from you because now they're going to go not just school, but then they have sports and they have friends and homeschooling and our RV and the life that God has given us has just afforded us an incredible family time. And I'm so, so thankful. And I know, and really, again, like I said, that's why my message is simple. In this homeschooling world, I just want you moms to spend time with your children and enjoy it because before you know it, you're selling the RV and your little girl's walking down the aisle.
Listen, it is perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason I stay in it too, is because I can give perspective. if nothing else. And so I think, Todd, of the 4 of us, you and Debbie and Joe and me, we're the 2 emotional ones.
Exactly,
It's
exactly. Yeah, so
so let
that's kind of a kind of a different way to say unstable. Uh,
Yes. Yes, Joe is so steady. There's
Oh,
this
yeah.
book, Slow and Steady, Get Me Ready. I mean, Joe is just like this, and I'm
Yeah.
just like this, and
Yeah.
so, but it is something. The thing I wasn't prepared for, well, let me say this. When your kids graduate from high school and go on and do what they're gonna do, whether it's college or career,
Mhm.
and get married, um, the way I made peace with it, this is terrible, was I thought, and I love my daughters-in-law and my son-in-law. I love them. And, but before I knew how much I loved them, I would think, "Well,
She
well,
hated him.
they know they have to get married or I can't have grandchildren."
Alright, right, right.
And so now our our grandchild just graduated from high school and is going to college, and my grandson is a senior in high school this year, homeschool, but,
Wow.
and I'm thinking, I did not sign up for an empty nest twice. I mean, not that the
Mm,
kids live with me, but we're so fortunate. I mean, we are so blessed by our kids to be to allowed to have such a large part in our grandkids' lives
mm.
that I'm totally unprepared to say goodbye to my grandchildren.
That's just overwhelming. That's a
No, I know it's not right.
The good news is, Ann, you'll probably be in, like, the memory care unit soon, so
Thanks.
and you'll forget all that, so, it'll be good. It's all good.
So, but it is sweet and it is perspective. And, I do, like you, I just wanna say, the years seem long. No,
Mhm.
how is it? The
The
days seem
days are
long,
long.
but the years are short, and they fly by. And
Mhm.
they'll always be your children, but the time you have with them between 0 and 18 really is different because
Yeah.
they're home with you.
Yeah. And those lessons that, that we teach them are so huge. I mean, even right now, and I told Zan this maybe a week ago when she asked me to be on the show because she couldn't find anybody else. She said, I told her that I was watching my parents. Zan's a snorter too,
I know
so
you're gonna make you
I
always make me
love that. I
snort on
love
the
that.
air, okay. Very
I
unladylike Southern-wise.
Southern snorter. So the last couple weeks, we've been helping my parents move in transition into a memory care unit, nursing home, rehab, and really, it's been my dad has looked about 10 minutes from being in heaven. I mean, he just looks terrible. But then afterwards he goes, "You want to go to McDonald's?" I'm like, "You're
Sure,
kidding
Dad.
me, right?" So he doesn't think there's anything wrong with him. But what I think's super interesting is that my mom also has some memory loss and is really struggling. She can't remember the conversations we had over and over and over again. But my mom grew up. She wasn't a homeschooler. She would have been a homeschooler, but
If it
she
had
didn't
been a
know it.
thing,
She
right,
didn't
yeah,
know
that's right, that's
homeschoolers.
right.
We only knew one family who went to Christian school. But my mom got up every morning and she would have devotions with each of her 4 children separately, before we went off to school. And one of the verses that, I mean, I know I memorized 100 times and I can remember hearing it for the very first time was, "This is the day that the Lord has made." This is the day that the Lord has made. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And my mom would sing that. And for the last 30 years, if you were to call my mom and get her answering machine, it would be this perkily voice that would make your eye twitch that would say, "This is the day that the Lord has made." Well, that's all easy to say when everything's going great. And, my mom is overwhelmed by change and doesn't that her husband is separated from her right now. They're going to be reunited tomorrow, so we're putting them in the same room. So we're super excited about that. But she'd say, "Todd, it's just so hard." And I'd say, "Mom, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will
Okay, that makes me
rejoice
cry. That's
and
right.
be glad in it." And she'd go, "Yeah, Todd, but it's so hard. It's easy for you to say." I said, and then I would say firmly, "Mom, you've said this for all our lives, and it is truth. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. You get to see Dad today. You get to be, you know that heaven awaits for you." And then she would smile. That is homeschooling, really. We teach them these things. We teach them these biblical truths, and then one day when we're old and decrepit and we're scared that they will remind us of the truths that we taught them when they were little kids. And I'm like, that is so precious to me.
And, well, we have buried now all 4 of our parents, and I felt like
Mm,
going on that journey with them is like ushering them to the gates of heaven. We can't go with them, but we can walk with them there and make the journey a little more pleasant maybe, because
yeah,
those last years can be hard. But Joe's dad died at 100.
it's
August
amazing.
31st of this past year.
Wow.
So, I'm remembering all of that, but I think the thing that I loved about homeschooling, and I wanna talk with you about this just a little bit, is that our children had access to their grandparents. I mean, all 4 grandparents were in town while we were homeschooling. They had so much time with them, and our parents really spoke so many things into their lives and did so many things with them and for them. And then as they got older, it was interesting. John, my middle son was an attorney, and Ty was a medical device salesman at the time. Lizzie was still in college. But, John was helping dad take care of some legal things, whereas daddy had helped John with law school. And Ty was finding the right doctors for my dad and for Joe's mom. And it was dad who had helped Ty really get a start in the medical device field. I mean, so it's that generational kingdom part of homeschooling that I think it's gonna make me cry, that I think I love the most.
Mm.
And, I just remember, "Oh gosh, what is wrong with me?" See, you bring this side out of in me, Todd.
Well, let's talk about algebra, and let's see if the tears flow during that time. 'Cause that's not the stuff that matters. That is not the
That's
but,
right.
sometimes in homeschooling, you think that it is. You think these are the things but those are not the things gonna cause you to cry on the air in public someday.
That's right.
It is
I
about
don't know,
those
there are a couple of
relationships.
times I wanted to cry over algebra with one of my
That's
kids.
true. That is a good point. That is a good one.
But it's just that I don't know, I think I love all those things about homeschooling, and when Joe's dad died last year, I mean, there were, like, 6 of his great-grandkids
Mm,
sitting around the bed with him.
that's pretty
I
cool.
mean, it just doesn't get this life doesn't get any sweeter than that. I always think about what C.S. Lewis said. When we have that yearning for people we've lost, or, I still grieve over not homeschooling, having been the homeschool mom. There's just some days I'd love just to have all 3 of my kids back home just for a day, just to hug them and love on them. But C.S. Lewis says those yearnings we have are really our yearnings for heaven, where all those things will be restored. So he says when you're feeling homesick or you're feeling those pulls, that you're really just yearning for your home, as Keith Green used to say in
Yeah,
one of his
yeah.
songs, our
I believe
eternal
that,
home.
yeah.
I do too. I do too. And so I guess what I want to hear you say, and what I love to say to homeschool moms and dads, it is all worth it. C.S. Lewis talks about the weight of glory. And because one day, I mean, if this is life is all there is, homeschooling may not be worth it. Because you love it, but it's hard work. And at some points, it just rips your heart right out of you. And, but knowing that there's eternity in the horizon, and that it's that eternal perspective that makes it all so precious.
I agree. I agree. I could break into "It Will Be Worth It All" right now.
Do
Oh,
it, do
no.
it, because I am not gonna sing
It
on air.
will be worth it. No, okay.
Or my
Mm,
friend Faye, sings that song, that old song, I think it was by Dallas Holmes, "The skies will unfold,"
uh-huh. Right, right.
displaying his glory, and she is blind, and so when she sings it, she knows she's gonna see Jesus, and she's gonna see for the first time, and she's got this explosive voice, and
Yeah.
she sings that, and man, I think the angels are coming to get us right then.
And for all your listeners, you'll need to Google who Dallas Holm is, because you don't know. I know your producer Caleb has no idea who that is.
I don't know, Caleb knows Christian music, he may know that. Gosh, I do have to say, my granddaughter sent us a picture, from Clemson University of, like, thousands of kids just on one of their green areas singing praise and worship songs.
Really, that's
I mean,
cool.
it was pretty powerful, and it did make me think in 1972, I went to Explo 72 in Dallas, the Cotton Bowl, and there were, like, 80,000 kids in that stadium just praising the Lord, and I think Billy Graham spoke. They say it's the birth of Christian music, so
That's
anyway,
cool.
but, those are, this friend of mine, I won't say friend, it was somebody I really admired. His name was Archie Parrish, and he had a PhD or whatever it is you get from seminary, and he knew all of the revivals in the world, and he was at our house one night after speaking at our church, and he just said, "Zan, those tastes of revival keep you going on earth, because you see what heaven is gonna be like with all the angels singing and all the people singing and all the glories of it is pretty
Yeah,
amazing."
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so what else have you been doing?
Well, it's funny because, you say, "What else?" And maybe this an extension of homeschooling, but as you get older and your kids get older and the thing about homeschooling, like you said, it just takes up all your time, and, my wife came up with a phrase, and you cannot steal this, Zan, because I'm thinking this could totally be a book, because she
Oh,
was
wait a
just
minute,
saying.
I'm writing it down,
Okay,
I'm
she's
writing it
writing
down.
it down. The purpose-driven homeschool. No, that's not it. Um, but, sometimes even right now, it just feels like both of us, we feel so blessed by our children. Our adult children live super close. I mean, like right next door, across the street, and we watch them, their kids, all the time. I mean, I think we had, uh, 6 of them over this morning, but we're gonna have some in a couple more hours, and then we'll have some tonight. And my wife said, "Really, our life is a life of surrender." She said, "We're in a stage of surrender." Where, because some of our friends are kind of like, "Well, hey, my kids are grown. I want to do what I want to do. I want to go and volunteer to save the turtles, sea turtles down in somewhere." And it sounds so fun. And even Debbie will sometimes say, it's even our kids who are still in our school homeschool or just out of our homeschool and we're still in our home, and they're making choices, and some of them they're not bad choices, they're different choices. And we still have to encourage them in that and smile, because if we don't, somebody else is going to encourage them and smile at them. And she said, Todd, we're just our life is kind of a life of surrender. We don't get to call the shots anymore. And we have to kind of say, okay, I could have chosen ease, but I chose better. And I think at homeschooling, you kind of feel that way sometimes. I know there are a lot of moms listening who just think, oh man, it'd be so nice to see those kids get on a bus and disappear just for a few hours every day, and I could do whatever I want. But you have chosen a life of surrender that really is such it pays off so huge. It pays off. Like you said it a little while ago. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it.
Mhm. Absolutely. That I mean, that's just like, "Okay, amen, we can all go home now."
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, it's easier to say than to
Um,
do.
I always felt like when the kids were home, you're always building, 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 and working towards something. and then you launch your kids, or the Lord launches your kids, and then it's a sort of a letting go, a surrendering
Mm,
even more, like Debbie was talking about, and it's helping them on their time schedule and not our time schedule.
mhm.
And, but it's sure is a precious part of life.
It is, it is. So, Zan, if you could do it over again, I mean, because you were, like, in the pioneer stages, they were still writing on backs of shovels back then, uh, but,
They were
what
still threatening us with jail back then, that's
that's
for sure.
true. Would you do anything differently? I mean, because you have like you said, you have perspective. Would you have stressed out less, or do you think you would have still stressed out over the same things?
Well, Joe and I were talking about this. I said, it was something, and I said, "Oh gosh, I'm so stressed about that." And he said, "Well, you stress out for everything."
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Mm.
So
My
so so
Good.
I'm really trying to be calm and cool as a cucumber, but, that of all the things I aspire to, that's never gonna happen, so I'm just gonna quit. But but it what did you ask me?
That well, no, no,
Oh, what
I
I
think that answers it.
yes, but w I wish I could have seen then what I see now,
Mm.
because there are things I would have worried so much less. And, I'm a real, words of affirmation and physical touch person, so I just wanted to hug them and touch them and tell them I loved them all the time. And, but still I know as they got older, I think, did I push them too much? Because we were still trying to prove our place in the world. This is because I started homeschooling in 1984, and we didn't know anybody in the world, and we had neighbors who wouldn't speak to us, and people at church wouldn't speak to us, and family members wouldn't speak to us when we started homeschooling. I mean, it was tough for an extrovert. And so, I do know that I always felt like I had something to prove.
Mm.
And if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would say, "You've got nothing to prove. You just
Exactly.
love on those kids all the time."
Because people are still doing that. I mean, even the ones who aren't worried about going to jail and, they still feel like they somehow have to be the poster child of homeschooling and feel like they have to prove to everybody. I know that Illinois, within just about a year ago, they were some angry ex homeschoolers were trying to pass some laws um, and I saw someone say, well, we'll just show them that we're better than everybody else. And I wrote and I said, we don't have to show them anything. We don't have to prove that homeschooling works because we know it does. And we're not using the same standards as they are using. And we're wrong if we say we use their standards. I remember talking to a mom one time who said pretty much like you said, we were in the first wave and our kids went to college and they graduated and they were successful. And she said, and we felt validated, in our homeschooling choice. And she looked at me and she just said softly, she goes, we were wrong for validating ourselves by their standards. And I think, and I think that pressure is still there to say, no, I can do what God's put in my heart to teach my kids. Cause it seems pretty obvious when you don't listen to anybody else.
Right. That's right. And you hear that still small voice, and
Mhm.
sometimes there's a lot of competition. You
Yep.
get a lot of other voices in your heads, but, it is the relationship. Our kids obviously need to be prepared to face the world. There are things they need to know, and I'm a book person and an overachiever, which is kinda can be a deadly thing for homeschooling. And, but, at the end of the day, it's our relationship with them, and wanting to see them achieve their potential and their dreams. Oh gosh, that just gets me
Mhm.
started on your whole, build your kids' dreams up.
Right,
I
right.
didn't say that right. How does that
That's
what's the half
okay.
of that talk?
Be a dream fanner, don't be a
Yeah,
dream killer.
yes,
Yeah.
because if you kill their dream, they will find somebody, and And I have to say this, when I started homeschooling and the whole world was against me, and my dad had wanted me to go to graduate school and, do something with him, I don't know. So I was a disappointment in a lot of ways when I graduated from college, got married, and had babies a lot of ways. But man, when I was threatened with jail for homeschooling, my dad rose up and he stood with me. And he was mad that I'd been treated that way, and he was contacting senators and legislators and even through the end of all of our legislative work, which was 8 years, dad was always there. There were just some things, ships I couldn't right, wrongs I couldn't correct, and he would always, call it he kept up with favors and didn't mind calling them in. That was one thing about my dad, but he didn't mind calling them in for homeschooling, which he could have cared less about. And, then later, as the kids grew older, he became a big fan of homeschooling too, but, he had he not stood by with me, I really don't know if I could have handled all of the pressure and all of the prosecution and all of the persecution. So parents really, I think about that so much, like you were saying with your adult kids. They make different decisions, but you stand with them,
Mhm. And I
because
will
you
say
love them.
too, that maybe somebody listening, or I'm gonna guess a lot of you are listening, and say, "I feel just like Zan," like I've disappointed my parents because I'm doing something that's scary to them. I don't know about you, Zan, but I feel like what usually happens is what happened with your dad. They come around, they see the benefits of it, and then they're the ones who become the big cheerleaders.
That's
I know, and
exactly
I
right.
and so I'd say to the moms who maybe feel like that, because I've had them come up to me and say, "Well, I just feel like I have to do so good because my parents are always watching me," and I'm like, "You don't have to worry about doing so good. They're going to see a difference, and they're gonna be on your side." And what I've seen, it always works that way.
That's right. It does. It may take a while. With Joe's
Mhm.
parents, it took like 10 years for them to really begin to see the value of homeschooling. But, we were in it for the long haul. So that was half of our 21 years. And so we had 11 really great years,
Mhm.
with them. And so I don't know. But it, I- if you, I if you're estranged from your parents, well, I don't even wanna go there, but try to include your parents somehow, your in-laws, in your
Mhm.
homeschooling, even if it's just visiting them more,
Right,
you
right.
know?
And be patient with them because it is kind of because of what I found, and I don't know if you felt this way because it being early on, but sometimes I think our parents feel like when we say we're going to homeschool our children, what they hear is because you think we did a bad job with you. And so they get super defensive. And I would just not feel like you have to defend yourself. You don't have to bring out all the stats that Dr. Brian Ray has. I mean, they're great stats. But, just let your kids prove over time and, be patient with them and just cut them some slack because they love you too. But it does feel a little weird when your kids are choosing something that they did not choose or even know about.
That's right, that's right. So this is our show on perspective for you guys.
I like that.
Do you want that?
Old people who know who Dallas Holm is. You've already written
I
us
am gonna
off.
regret that.
Uh,
I know, I still put on my Keith Green and some other things when my
Sandy Patty.
grandkids are over. Yeah, well, anyway, okay, that's enough of that. So what do you have going on, Todd? Are you working on a book? Are you traveling and speaking? I know you're podcasting like crazy.
Yeah, people ask me, so what are you working on, Todd? And we have some projects that we're working on, but really life is just takes so much time. And even I'm, kind of this morning, I was talking with my wife and I have to go down and help my dad move in tomorrow. And my adult kids need a lot. They're working on house projects, so, I'm always going over there, and it just eh, there's probably not a night where we don't have family involved, and we're so blessed and overwhelmed
Yes,
and
so
thankful.
thankful for that.
But
That's right.
remember that life of surrender I was talking
Yeah.
about? And so I said to God this morning, I'm like, God, if you want me to accomplish any of these things, you're going to have to do it because I'm going to choose the things that you've asked me to do. And that's be a good husband, be a good father, and everything on that. You're going to have to take care of the rest. And I think, again, I can remember Jan Smith. Maybe you've had her on the show, or Roger and Jan Smith. And Jan kind of said, when she was in the midst of homeschooling, like, God, you've called me to this. If you want these kids to be, whatever you want these kids to be, you're going to have to do it because I don't know if I can do it. And I kind of feel like that, like I just I have to do what matters, the important stuff in the relationship. It is those things. I mean, it almost seems that when you're dealing with your parents as they're aging at the end, you see all the things that they spent so much time on that doesn't matter a diddly. My dad, the only time he lights up is when someone tells him his Facebook stock is up by 3 points, and he's like, "Really?" And he's not smiling at me, nobody else, but his Facebook stock. And I just want, I want to say, Dad, what are you gonna spend it on? What are you gonna do with it? There's no purpose to have it. You know, um, and so for right now, life just seems to be taking a lot of time. But I want to get that part right because the urgency again calls me to do other things that maybe aren't quite as important. And
You know,
you know,
you do feel like at some point you're gonna get over the tyranny of the urgent in your life, but you don't,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you don't. I
Yeah,
and
until they're feeding you red Jello,
oh, no,
in
don't.
your little corner in your little socks that have the
Have the
grippers on the
grippies on
bottom.
'em 30 years from now.
Yeah.
I'm holding on for 30 years from now.
Hope that works out for you, just saying.
'Cause
But
they're
you
still
don't know, you really don't know. You don't know. And again, that's my message in homeschooling. I just want the parents not to be overwhelmed by the things they think that are so important. Again, and I was kind of making fun of it, but when Zan got choked up about, she wasn't choked up about math. She wasn't choked up about history. She was choked up about those kids. And again, you have them for such a short period of time. I just want to enjoy that time, and I want the parents to enjoy that time, and especially homeschoolers. I wrote a little book. I thought maybe I had it with me, but I don't. It's called "How to Choose a Relationship When There's So Much to Do," and there's this passage. It's
Oh,
on.
that's a great book. How did I miss that one?
I don't know.
Gosh.
It wasn't on the New York Times bestseller list. Maybe that's the reason. Um, um, and because it's kind of based on those two homeschoolers, Mary and Martha, and uh, you know, Mary, is kind of spending her time with Jesus, and Martha, is on all the busy stuff. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, I tell you the truth, Mary has chosen the better things, implying that Martha had chosen the worst things that seemed like they had to be done. And because the sad part of the whole story to me is, Martha had Jesus in her house and she missed him because she was so busy doing important stuff, things that have to be done. And I think, wouldn't it be a shame if we had our kids with us for these 18 years and we missed them because we were so busy doing things that had to be done? And really, I hope that you would listen to me or Zan or other people like us who keep pointing back to those things because I think the young moms might even have more pressure. It's a natural, scrunchy kind of mom thing, but it becomes about the chickens and the eggs and the, ghee and all those other things that you cook with, and your health and, they just don't seem like they're the things that matter. It's still the same things that mattered way back then.
It is interesting because I always say I'm sort of this schizophrenic person because if you read all the birth order books, which I don't know why I love those birth order books so much,
'Cause you I
but
know why you do. My wife does. My mom, all you women folk love those things. That's why we did a homeschool personality test. It wasn't for the men, it was for the women.
This this is so true. But my older sister is 6 years older, and she also was born with congenital heart disease and should have never lived. And so I sort of functioned in that role as a firstborn. They say if your sibling is 6 years older or has an illness. And so I feel like I'm half firstborn and half secondborn. So I'm half, "Let's get it done," and then I'm half, "Let's sit," and really do, I don't know. So I am schizophrenic. I will enjoy not being schizophrenic when I go to heaven.
Yeah. Well, that's and really, I think that's talking about the personality test we did. We did a personality test. You can find it on our website. But the
Oh, I
thing is,
took it. I took it. What do you think I was? I took it this morning because 'cause I'd never
they're
seen it.
really.
Uh-huh.
Are you a sandpiper?
No.
Are you an owl?
Yes, I was the
Okay.
owl, and I
Uh,
tried so hard not to be the owl. I was saying things that weren't exactly true so that I might be the sandpiper. So I
you are schizophrenic.
I was
But I think what's interesting about that whole concept, because for almost my whole speaking career, I've been telling moms to relax, to enjoy their children. And I would have these really intense moms come up to me with their little pad of paper and go, "Can you tell me how to relax?" And I'm like, well, it's real easy. You just do that. And I realized what I was doing was I was asking them to be something they were not. And so on our personality test, we divided into an owl, a falcon, a sandpiper, and a swan. And the whole point of it is whatever you are, that's how you should homeschool. If you have trouble, enjoying and relaxing, it doesn't mean you shouldn't. It just means you kind of have to approach it a little bit differently. And if you're a sandpiper who loves to have fun, probably you're not gonna be that get her done, falcon who's, focused on everything. But what a great thing that is. And we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And I think if we can kind of homeschool in light of both of those, I think we can all smile more. And really that's what I want because as I've said a million times, we all started homeschooling because we thought it was gonna be fun. And somewhere along the way, we stopped smiling. And, in fact, we do the opposite of smiling. Our kids would drop over dead if they saw us smiling, and I just want to remind you again to smile.
I was revisiting the, Smiling Homeschooler today, and I would listen to a couple of your podcasts this morning. I just always love listening to your stuff, and I wanted to listen to the RV podcast,
Oh, yeah.
because 'cause I'm going through all this internal stuff in myself, letting go of things, and I'm thinking, "Oh, and Todd's letting go of his RV."
Sure, she's putting a pressure even from Zan, I have to feel pressure guilty for selling my RV. It's not my own family, just my own family.
I know it's true. And anyway, but the whole smiling thing, and I love what you said. It's not that I wanna be smiling, I want you to be smiling.
Exactly.
And I think I may have told you about this mom. My mom was a mess, and I loved her. She was this elegant Southern woman, but she had this great sense of humor, and so I don't know how I didn't get any of those good things from her. But she would always tell my sister and I when we were fighting, "You can say whatever you want to, but you have to smile when you say it. So don't judge me." But I would look at my sister sibling, I'd say, "I hate your guts." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so mad at you 2." Well, you can't stay mad at somebody when you're smiling. So smiling has been the thing that I really brought into the marriage, only it wasn't always genuine. And I could be so mad at Joe, and somebody could walk up, and I could just smile.
Yeah.
But there is something about smiling and laughter that
Mhm.
they really are good for their soul, and there's research on it.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
I don't
research
believe in
about the
research,
laughter.
but,
I know you
uh
don't, but I do,
you have
and
to have Jenny on the show for that one. Um,
I look
she probably has 17 experts that tell you why it's good to smile. Uh, but I'll tell you from this guy, it's good to smile. And that's the thing, but your mom was right. Your mom was right, because it's not about me being the smiling homeschooler. I'm not a smiling homeschooler. I want those moms to be smiling. And really, some of your kids who don't get smiles, they're the ones who need it so badly because some of our kids are hard to smile at. They're just hard kids. They make, you say good morning and they're like mad, and you're like fighting over why it's a good morning. And I'm like, I don't know. I just said good morning. I didn't mean anything by it, you know, but a smile is a act of the will. Laughter is a little harder to fake, yeah. 'Cause people do laugh at me, and I don't think they're genuine. But, a smile, I can make myself smile at my kids, and some of my kids, I have to make myself sometimes because it doesn't come naturally, but I know they need it. And so that's what again, that's part of what I want. I want moms to be intentional smilers. And again, for some moms, smiling doesn't come easy. They don't dole those out very often. But you can do it. I can do it as Zan right now. I don't even have to want to, and I can smile. I mean, I'm doing it right now, you know, and so, on as soon as you finish listening to this, you say, "I'm gonna go smile at my kid," and when you pass them in the hallway, you just smile, and I'll tell you from a child's vantage point, when our parents smile at us, all is right with the world. You know, all is right with the world. And even I'll tell you from a husband's vantage point, when you smile at us, we would kill for one of those things, because it just says, "You're okay. I like
Yeah,
you."
that
And
that is
sometimes we don't feel
true.
very liked.
That is true. Although my daughter looked at me one day, she was about 7, and she said, "Mama, when you're with grown-ups, why do you always do this?" She was a little Joe.
Yeah, yeah. Zan should just have a show of all her stories. Uh,
Oh, you live long enough, you got stories.
Yep, you
We
do.
do, we do.
But some
Yeah.
people tell them better than others,
Yeah.
so
Oh, man. Okay, so Todd, before we leave, we have to have an RV story, and the one I want is about the turkey.
Zan, this is like the donut story, Do do you wanna tell the donut story every time we talk?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't it just I don't know if I can be funny, like, if it's not as funny when I just tell it.
When you just tell it, okay, well, you don't have to tell the turkey story, but the next time you come on with me, you have to tell the turkey
Okay,
story.
okay. There you go. So the
Okay.
next time Zan can't find anybody and I'm on the show, I'll I'll tell the turkey story.
Well, so Todd, we've probably given out all the words of advice we have, but it is the
I think
beginning
we've
of a new.
covered everything.
I think we have to,
Everything.
and we've cried. So is there anything you want to say to new homeschooling moms that we haven't already said as they go into the school year?
I will say to you, brand new homeschooling moms, if you already started, I mean, as we record this is the day after Labor Day. So if you're putting it off, it's probably you can go at least till Halloween. I get it, but if you've started, I would say you have chosen a wonderful thing. And I will say, I'm going to change that to say, not that you have chosen, but you have been given a gift. You've been given the gift of homeschooling, of togetherness with your kids. And there are going to be times where you're going to not want that gift. And you may have thought that it was because you made this well thought through choice. But I believe it's a gift from God. Because really, we didn't know any better. We didn't know that it was going to turn out so wonderfully and that we were going to have these great memories. But I will guarantee that you will have the same. You will have great memories, and really the memories are gonna from those hard times where you're crying and they're crying, and somehow you're gonna remember them as priceless one day. So, you should thank God. When you get off this, when you quit listening, just take a few minutes to just thank God for giving you the gift of homeschooling.
Amen. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on the show with me. Tell people how they can find you. I don't know how they can miss you because you're everywhere, but tell them how they can find you.
Well, you can find us at thesmilinghomeschooler.com. We've got all kind of resources for smiling homeschool moms. And if you have a husband or you happen to be a husband and listening to this, you can also find us at familymanweb.com. as we have a ministry also to dads. Again, same thing, just reminding dads of what's most important.
Hey, do
So,
you still have your, "We choose to stay married," or what's your T-shirt?
staying married, hashtag
Staying
staying married.
Yeah, do you still
Yes,
sell
you can still
those?
get those at our website. And right now we're having a kind of a back to school special. I'll let you know about it because we're super excited about it. We have a t-shirt. And I had one sitting by my desk because I'm always ready for a plug. And Zan can see it. It says, it's like an equation. It says home is greater than school. And it says homeschool, just a
Oh, I love
reminder.
that.
And so we've put that together with we have a smiling homeschooler kind of a, page a day perpetual calendar, that it's just a great resource to remind you every day, just a little encouragement every day. It's like having me sit on your desk and remind you of some of the stuff we talked about now. But you can get them at our website, smilinghomeschooler.com. And we do, as Zan said, we have a podcast, The Smiling Homeschooler, and we have a weekly newsletter as well. You can find it
And you have
same
a
website.
dad's podcast. How many podcasts do you do,
We
Todd?
have so many. I don't
I
even,
know you do. It's
you
so
know,
impressive.
no, we have 2 podcasts, but I also do one with my kids that just my boys, and it's called, The Wonderful World of Disney Plus. And we just talk about old Disney movies, because that's primarily what we always talk about anyway. So we get
That's
together and we
awesome.
talk about Swiss Family Robinson and, Davy Crockett and all those great things that, we sometimes forget.
Well, it's always so much fun and so encouraging to have you. I actually chose you because I needed to have this conversation with you.
Okay.
And I needed to weigh in on the RV too. I just
Okay.
I needed to toss my rose on the grave.
I had a lot of people so sad, none who wanted to buy it, so
That's right, or had to drive it like you.
exactly.
Okay, and thank you guys for being here. As always, you can find me at zantyler.com and on social media. And we're so thankful you were here with us today. And we pray that the Lord will continue to richly bless you and your family in your homeschooling journey. Until next time, bye.